o'clock hour. All right, welcome everyone to a Board of Selectmen's meeting for Tuesday, April 4th, 2023. We have got a quorum, a full board, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any adjustments to the agenda, Joe?
None, Madam Chair.
All right, so moving right on to consent items, we've got chapter 34 short-term rentals, and we had a great public hearing a week or so ago. 120 people there to participate, more even zooming in. So we were just so thankful for that, for that showing, and all those who are willing to speak. Obviously there's some confusion going on and whatnot. So I suggest we make a motion. Let's continue the discussion of the chapter 34 short-term rental ordinance and gather data. Some suggested, maybe the board could explore looking into forming a group to gather such information and perhaps look at a time in November for votes. So I guess, that's my motion. That's what I'd like to put forth for chapter 34.
Second.
Okay. Discussion.
So you said to basically put it off the table until.
Well, just to continue the discussion. Isn't anything different than we've done with chapter 38, which we're voting on next? So chapter 38, I think people wanted it, wanted us to vote on it last year, wanted us to put it forth to the voters. So it's just, but the board said it wasn't ready. So it's just, continuing to work on it. There were a number of people that stepped up and asked for data. And so there seems to be, a lot of confusion. Misinformation. Well, I really like, for instance, I'll use, Carrie Gardner, she obviously read it, and there were two words that really threw her off, if applicable. And I'm like, we've been looking at this ordinance for 4 months. And so things that make sense to us, just don't seem to be as, maybe as clear to some of the voters. So just like chapter 38 needed extra work, it seems that the public's telling us that chapter 34 needs some more time and discussion as well. So, that's, we didn't promise a timeline anyway. We didn't say it was going to go on this June's warrant. We just said it would go to a public hearing and the selectmen would vote, on the action thereafter. So
we're giving the document due process as it was presented to us.
Right. So that's a good point, Ethna, because and really need to thank the Good Neighbor Short-Term Rental Coalition for presenting us with. They came from a caring place for the town of Rangeley, and with this, with their statistics, their draft ordinance, and their signed letter, they were concerned, and very thankful for this, for that group to step out and bring something of concern to the Board of Selectmen. So it's a great way to get the discussion going. And we've made a lot of changes with the ordinance since it was originally drafted. So a lot less restrictions, but still seems to be some work,
Can I ask you another question?
Yeah.
Is this in hopes of what a few people had mentioned, that to try to catch the coattails of the state? Is that what you're thinking? Well,
so Joe looked into how quickly the states were moving on this, and they're not moving terribly fast. So for instance, we can, and we'll keep an eye on it, but we may not see anything from the state for a couple of years. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but I think one of the top two items that they've talked about is a registry and then possibly taxing short-term rentals with the municipality getting a portion
Correct.
of that. Now, our short-term rental ordinance does not mention taxes whatsoever. It doesn't mention fees, registration fees, there are no caps, et cetera. But that's what seems to be the highlight so far, but it's not moving anywhere very fast at all. So Ethan, we could, the same discussion a year from now could be, could
I
be with the
just
state.
wanted to ask to clarify, because I know a few different people have mentioned it, so I figured the folks that asked the question would want to know the answer to that.
Yeah, definitely. So, that seems to be about where the state is at, Mark.
So what you proposed there in your motion was to try to get it for November, a vote in November.
It's a goal. What we've done with other ordinances, chapter 38, which is coming up next. I think we've omitted signs for future discussion for perhaps like for a November vote. So it's
So are you intermittently going to have more public hearings on chapter 34? Like you did on chapter 38, going along every 6 weeks or something like that, have it on your agenda to see if there's any new information.
I think, it's what past practice has been. Chapter 38 was a much bigger undertaking.
And it's nothing but restrictions.
And chapter 38 is.
It's a whole book of restrictions on property that people own, and I don't
Just
see
like
nearly
international
the
building
anxiety
codes
with
and-
that as I do with this short-term rental, but it's just kind of asking you to register, asking you to have a contact person, and asking you to follow state and federal rules. So it seems like a disconnect to me, but that's okay.
It's seem to need to get some, but it's it'll be an ongoing discussion, and we'll see what folks want for data. Shelley.
A part of me would like to see a committee from both sides to get together to try to make something work for the town of Rangeley, what's best for the town of Rangeley. And the reason why I say that is because then, the state has all these different mandates. They have taxes, they're gonna charge fees. Who better that knows our town than us rather than the state of Maine? So if we had something hopefully in place, to me, that would be, and some goals out there that we want to do for our infrastructures for the town and stuff. To me, that would be that we are more on top of it for what they may want to suggest. Does that make sense?
It's all about what's tailored to towns. The town of Bethel that's something they're putting forth to the voters, and this June they're very similar to us. Ethna.
So just a comment to kind of coincide with what you said, Shelley. I think that the working group would be a great idea to gather the data, and you need people from both sides of this. We need to make sure that we're hearing from both sides of it. You can support short-term rentals and still support the need for some regulations. With regards to the state, whatever they come out with, we have to follow. The only thing we can do is be more restrictive, but whatever they hand us for rules is what we're stuck with.
But at the same time, we could give something as an example to the state to say that,
We
well,
could
this
gather
is what we're
testimony.
planning on.
We could
Right.
use that group to
And we
give
can say, we
testimony
do
as to why
not
it
support
shouldn't be.
this. We
Yes.
feel that we've done our part to protect our town.
If we have all our ducks in a row, we can absolutely send
That's-
somebody to
that's
give
just what I was
testimony to oppose certain
Yeah.
restrictions that they're proposing right now.
Yeah.
But whatever they come down with is what we're stuck with.
Yeah,
I understand that.
it's a very lengthy document at this point.
Yeah.
Lee.
Can we speak? So this is from Lisa Klein's office, our representative. So the new bill is being written by, spearheaded by a gal named Tracy out of Kennybunk. She's a legislator or senator. And they are putting together recommendations to the commission to increase housing opportunities in Maine by setting land use regulations in short-term rentals. It's LD 1294, if you want to look it up. I'm afraid, and I'm not for or against, my position on the short-term rental is, I think if I'm right, the fire and rescue and police calls are up about 27% since 2019. And is that from more people moving here? Is that from the mountain, or is that from short-term rentals? Just like gather information, right, to figure out where that's coming from. That's all. I don't want anything to cost us money. Unfortunately, if you've read the LD 2003, are we familiar with that? So the LD 2003 clearly states from the state that this takes place on July 1st, it starts. And that clearly states that the municipalities have the right to regulate short-term rentals to achieve their their increased housing opportunities, we'll say, basically their low-income housing. So what they're telling us in Augusta is that we need to figure out how to increase our low-income housing. And one way that they're suggesting we do that is by regulating the short-term rentals. That might work in a certain town, but that's not going to work here.
No.
If we have 7%, which this coalition puts out, that we have 7% short-term rentals, which that's fine, if that's the number. How would we ever get 7% low-income housing? Right now, we only have 5 or 6 units at the top of Allen Street, right? How and would our community even support 7% low-income housing? You know what I mean? Is there that many jobs here? Is there, where would you do the low-income housing? I don't, you know what I mean? So this is what's coming from the state. The states, I'm afraid the state's regulations on short-term rentals are going to be much more harsh than what we would ever do. But I totally agree. There needs to be more information. That document was really written, I think, very well. And obviously they put a lot of thought into that. I think it might have been a knee-jerk reaction, a defensive mechanism.
I'm sorry, I'm
I'm sorry, the coalition.
Oh,
I think
okay,
the coalition
okay.
wrote this. It's very well written document by some very smart people in this town.
Yeah.
But I think it was kind of a knee-jerk reaction to some Facebook comments that might have been made, and maybe they felt threatened, and that's why they wrote it. I'm not sure. But I don't disagree that more time and more information needs to be gathered. But I can tell you the state's going to be much more restrictive than what we will ever be. And if you want to wait till the state comes out with theirs, I think you're right. From me talking to the senators, it's about 24 months away.
Yeah. It's you know, to reflect back, I mean, our comprehensive plan focuses more on you know, workforce housing. And that is, you know, I think the data we could glean from having a short-term, you know, rental registry would be very valuable as far as any movement forward, whether it was working with an existing group on what they're doing for workforce housing. A developer, you know, we've already had a developer approach, you know, the town about attainable housing. We questioned whether it was very attainable, but given the price point. And so, you know, with showing, you know, I guess my point was, you know, having statistics, you know, showing, okay, well, this is the number of residences we have in the town of Rangeley, which the assessor already has. This is the percentage of second homeowners we have. Well, this is the percentage of short-term rentals we have. It's all data that can show, all right, there's no existing room for workforce housing. And as businesses become, you know, we're only getting busier. And, you know, we've seen businesses cut hours on weekends, close a day or two more a week. close earlier than they have. And so, the comprehensive plan as it, as it relates to housing and what the town or the board could move forward with more data, better data on what we have. I mean, it's not about decreasing anything that's currently existing. It's just about, all right, well, this is what Rangeley is made up with. We've got, workforce housing in our comprehensive plan. Where do we go from here? Because we know we need short-term rentals in Rangeley. There aren't enough beds to meet the need. Absolutely. So it's a tough juggling act. But continuing the discussion seems to make sense. So
The only thing I'll say, I, as a board member, don't want to spend an immense amount of time on this subject throughout the summer, or even throughout the year. I'd be more in favor of collecting data and taking this up after the 1st of January. We have another ordinance we're going to work through. Last year we did 2 guaranteed. I mean, mind you, they were large. When this document came before us, what was it, last March?
last February.
February. Immediately I questioned the necessity of it. And I personally really didn't want to deal with it, but I have faith in the process. And when we took it back up, like we said we were going to in the fall, I wanted to see it through to hearing, hear what everybody had to say, and make a decision in my mind whether we had done a good enough job with the document, which you're touching on right now. I believe, and whether after working through it, it was something we could put to people. So I agree with you that it's not. And if we were to have a document that we put to vote, like Shelley and I agreed to in a meeting, I'd like to see it be 1 page. So I want to make sure the sign ordinance gets talked about well this year, and I don't want this overtaking our other jobs like it seems to have over the past few months.
Thanks, Ethan. Yeah, sometimes, but you're right. Sometimes it's easy for, one, we wear many hats, so one can dominate the agenda or discussion. Any other discussion before we take a vote? All right, all those in favor? Oh, was there one more? Okay. All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Okay, so 3 in favor, 1 opposed, 1 abstained. We'll continue the discussion. Chapter 38 zoning, we've got the Chapter 38 zoning ordinance to vote on whether to put forth in the Selectmen's Town Meeting warrant for June 13, 2023.
I make a motion to put Chapter 38 zoning ordinance on the July ballot, on the 2023 ballot. So,
all right, that's Ethan's motion.
Second.
And Ethna's seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. So this one's been discussed at length.
2 years.
2 years. Starting with the planning board and all their work on it. The solar moratorium. There is, as you had a public hearing for yesterday, solar moratorium to be is recommended to be placed on the Selectmen's Town Meeting warrant for June of 2023.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I make a motion to put the moratorium ordinance on commercial solar areas on the 2023 June ballot.
All right, Sam's motion.
Second.
And Ethna seconds. Any discussion? Yes, Shelley.
Did you, Chris brought something up last night about the fact that if the moratorium was necessary, where they tried to do it at the school. And they were told that because of the farm that we had already existing, it didn't meet the.
So, Madam Chair, when I had the discussion a few weeks ago with acting code enforcement officer, he's been approached recently about a potential project. And in that discussion, we talked about the fact that a couple of years ago, this ordinance, this moratorium didn't seem as imperative because the grid was full. CMP has had and has currently still no intention of upgrading it on their own. And that was kind of why this was not a huge priority previously. What's happening now with the influx of solar projects across the state is that developers are willing and in some cases are actually doing this, as I understand it, upgrading the grid or the components of the grid at their own cost. And CMP is certainly open to that, from what I understand, so that there is the potential that Rangeley could have people are interested, obviously, because they have approached the town about the possibility of applying for it. So the fact that the grid was full is no longer a safeguard, if you will, against commercial solar arrays. The second thing that was brought up in the public hearing was is there an ordinance being drafted? And the answer to that is yes. There's an alternative energy ordinance that is looks really good. I reread it this morning. It's in draft form. The ordinance committee has worked on it. It talks about solar and it also talks about other alternative sources, but it does cover solar, commercial solar. So it's close. I don't think, in my opinion, that this would require more than the initial 180-day moratorium period. The Board of Selectmen does have the authority, after hearing a notice, to extend that. You also can shorten it if you decide to. So I think that addresses the question.
So just to recap, so this commercial solar moratorium will go on the Selectmen's Town Meeting warrant. If the voters approve it, it's good for 180 days.
Correct.
All right. And within that period of time, the commercial or the ordinance will be worked on. Perhaps, if ready, presented for present for vote in November. If it's not ready for vote, then the selectmen could vote to extend it another 180 days, but that would be it. There's only one extension allowed. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think you can extend it more than once, but it's not recommended.
Okay.
Because remember that the intent of the moratorium is that there's some
An emergent need.
some perception of public harm or perceived public harm that needs to be addressed right away. And then the logic would say that, after a year, which would be 2 180-day cycles, that should be ample time.
Right.
It's only once.
The legal opinion I read, Madam Chair, does not limit it to once, but
Okay.
it's at least once. I would
Okay.
be comfortable saying that.
We don't have moratoriums be presented for vote that often, so it's always good to kind of refresh the purpose and whatnot. So, all right, so we've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Yes, Ethan.
Just to build on what Shelley said, I just want to make sure Mr. Farmer's concern was, did this moratorium allow for homeowners to still have panels on their roof? I thought the last paragraph took care of it. He thought it needed a little more clarification. What did you think, Bill?
Thank you, Ethan, for bringing that up. I believe that this does allow homeowners to do private arrays at their homes.
Yeah.
I actually read that as the hearing was going on, and I'm comfortable with the fact that those folks are allowed to do those things.
Absolutely.
If you bump into trouble with that for some reason, you can amend it, you know, as you go along after notice and hearing, you can adjust that. But I don't think that there's any problem with it the way it's written for the homeowners, for personal private use.
Please.
Was there a size on that homeowner's solar array? Was the one that we were looking at was 5,000 square feet? Twice the size of the average home, which is a pretty big field to have in the backyard.
I don't believe there's a limitation, Madam Chair, on it.
Okay.
Because we may have taken that out of chapter 38. At one time, there was you could do up to 5,000 square feet of solar array field in your backyard. We may have taken that out.
So, Madam Chair, it does not get into square footage, but it does say, for the purposes of this moratorium, commercial solar array is defined as a solar energy collection structure of any size that primarily serves an off-site user such as the electric power grid or use for non-adjacent parcel. So it doesn't restrict what somebody could do on their parcel for non-commercial purposes.
Does that answer your question, Lee?
I answered this question, but it's not what I wanted to hear.
Well, I think 5,000 square feet of solar in your backyard is a lot. It's huge. So I'm just wondering in the village, if somebody wants that at their neighbor's house. I agree with the rooftop, fine. There's, you know, I thought we wrote in there that solar field, however, control.
Mark?
I think the way chapter 38 addresses that now under essential services is that they all go to the planning board for planning board approval. So the planning board can decide whether it's appropriate, you know, in that location or not.
Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor? And that's unanimous. All right, next up is an executive session and need a motion.
Motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Title 1, Chapter 13, Subchapter 1, Section 405, MRSA. Sorry, hit the MRSA, too late, guys. Section 405, 6D, labor negotiations.
So that's Ethan's motion.
Actually,
And-
MRSA thing, yeah.
All right. Well, it's Sam seconds. All those in favor? And that is unanimous. All right.
528.
All right, thank you, everybody. Executive session. Okay, all right, we are coming out of executive session with our labor negotiations. And we have a couple of, oh, Sam is in the room yet.
If the door stops, run away, Sam.
What?
All right, Sam is back. Okay. Action items under, after labor negotiations. Joe.
So looking at the town warrant, under greetings, we now have to change ordinance 3.
Okay.
Because we are removing chapter 34.
Oh, yes. Yep.
So that is removed and that, so that's gonna make that ordinance 2 on the first page. And can I keep going?
So we've got, yeah, we have some labor negotiations. votes
Oh,
we
okay,
need to
I didn't
make.
know if we were doing I just thought that that was the
No,
next thing we're
Go
talking
ahead
about.
with the action items from
From the executive
executive
session, right?
session, yes.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to accept the amendment to the collective bargaining agreement covering the 3 merged employees located on page 3, effective March 22nd, 2023 to June 30th, 2023.
That is Ethan's motion
Second.
and Shelley seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Okay, there's a second.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chairman, I make a motion to put $10,000 in a contingency fund in the selectmen's budget for union negotiations with the administrative group.
That is Ethna's motion. And Sam seconds. Any other questions or comments there? Okay, all those in favor, and that's unanimous. All right, moving on to the town meeting warrant. We've got some adjustments to make. So Selectman Lowell brought up under the greeting paragraph that since we are not putting forward chapter 34. The ordinance count changes to 2. That revision.
And obviously that will change current Article 3 to Article 2, and Article 2 will be stricken.
Mhm.
And we're striking.
Yeah, Article ORD 2 is being struck. And
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Yes,
on this.
Joe.
I can't recall offhand, the ARPA item, is that still on there? We had a placeholder for ARPA, and the sensation I got from the board
Article B21.
recently was that because this has a 24 deadline, you might be willing to pause on that in this late hour, but I'm just curious.
yeah, no, it looks like Shelley's got something notated.
Okay, so in regards to the ARPA funds, is there any way that we could use these funds for some of the capital plans that we have budgeted underneath it? To reduce those line items, like the sewer reserve, we've gone from 25,000 to 100,000. Is there any way that we could pull some of those ARPA funds into the plans for the sewer department? Or even the solid waste reserve?
I think it has to be used actively for a project. I'm not sure it can be put in reserve perpetually. It could be used to offset what we would spend on a particular project. SCADA, for instance, at the sewer plant was one of my recommendations, that you could use that $60,000+ to offset the cost of that $200,000+ project. That would require a warrant article asking the voters if they wanted to do that. That would effectively, if you were confident or reasonably confident that the voters would pass that, you could adjust what you're requesting in reserve amounts and not raise and appropriate those, if that makes sense. So subtract $60,000 from this list of reserve accounts in places that you're comfortable, sewer possibly.
And then if it's not, if this line item isn't approved, then that line item gets added back, right?
No,
No, you can't write warrant articles that way.
no, because it's a
gotta be yes
reserve
or no.
account.
Yeah.
It's just we've gone from like 180,000 to 465. That's a huge hit.
Yeah.
And all we did was bring the fire department, the public works reserves back up to the 75, because for the past couple of years, we keep giving people credit.
Yeah, we offset with.
Yep.
So what does the board think about Shelley's suggestion to put a warrant article on there for $60,000 taken out of the ARPA funds for the new SCADA system? And then you would reduce, but that's not active yet, right?
No, it would be something we'd be going out to RFP for, and it would be a future purchase in the next fiscal year,
So it would be within the next 12 months.
hopefully, yes. Yeah. So it would be in the same time frame that you'd have authorization
Okay.
to spend that ARPA money if town meeting approved it.
Thoughts, you can hold off and wait on ARPA, those ARPA funds to use for something else. What Shelley is suggesting would reduce the amount raised in Article C1 by $60,000.
It's like $68,621.
6,000.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not hearing any takers. All right, if someone wishes to come back to that, we certainly can. But yes, our reserve accounts are up, our reserve requests are up considerably. Yes,
So is this reserve number up because of that planned project?
So the request, Madam Chair, actually, that's part of the request. It's more attributed to the recommendation that I and our engineer made a couple months ago to the board about the fact that we have some bonds being paid off with the plant. One currently, and then one in October, I think that we paid off, that it will come up to 124,000 or so. So we were recommending, instead of not raising and appropriating that, kind of moving it into the sewer reserve, so that folks wouldn't feel the difference. That was before we had the whole tabulation on the final reserve amounts that you see here. So the number is there mainly because those bonds are going to be paid off, and instead of raising and appropriating, not raising and appropriating that money, it'll be held in the reserve. So there's kind of a flat taxation for sewer. There is a healthy balance. I checked on this a couple of days ago. I think it's close to 500,000 in the sewer reserve. So we probably would be safe to do this year, either lower that and replace it with SCADA, or lower it some.
And some of the stuff too is based on the plans which we received from
Right.
the audit, and that's not an audit.
The
what is it?
fiscal sustainability plan.
Yes.
Exactly.
So you have that, but at the same time, it doesn't mean we can't get a loan. We don't necessarily have to raise $100,000 each year.
You could borrow, certainly, yeah. If you were to replace 60,000 of this 100, or 68,000 of this,
Right.
you could earmark that for the SCADA specifically, and that also gives us the impetus to get that thing out to RFP and start doing that. And then you can save that 68,000 elsewhere. It's a viable option.
And then we don't have to worry about not meeting the ARPA and missing our chance to spend it. So I'm just saying, while it's on our mind and it's fresh, and the 5 of us are all still here, I mean, that's.
So did you want to make a motion?
So what would that look like? Do I have to make the motion to make a motion to add Article B21 to reflect the ARPA article for $68,621.61? But I don't know what the language is gonna look like.
To expend on
For the town manager to get the language to be prepared for our next meeting.
yes, I can do that.
Okay,
Okay.
Yeah,
That was
and I
my
wouldn't put
motion.
the specific amount in there, I would say to spend the remaining funds in ARPA, which currently is this amount.
Okay,
Because there could be some interest.
There would
Okay, so
hopefully
let
be
me
some
amend my
interest,
motion to the balance that is in the ARPA funds.
okay, so there's Shelley's motion regarding Article B 21
Second.
and Ethna seconds. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Okay. All right, so Article C1 E will be revised.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
just to be clear, the predicate to that motion was to also, well, I think you just said it actually, to
revise. the line.
revise the reserve. So that's right.
Yeah, no,
Got
it's
it.
okay.
So-
To be revised.
Yep, got it.
Joe, is there anything else you wanted to draw attention to, before we moved on to, reviewing anything else that we can here?
Those are the ones that kind of stood out to me, other than wanting to find a way to populate whatever items we can in the budget when you schedule that meeting for next time. If we had, if you've done the union things after your negotiations, executive session, if you had any idea where you might be on non-union folks, I know as a directive from the board during negotiations, I put together an updated salary survey for you
Right.
folks. I don't know if you've had time individually to think about that, or if you have any thoughts about where you might be on the non-union folks. I'd like to be able to plug something in.
I was thinking 6%.
Did someone want to make a motion?
Didn't hear what you said.
So Ethan said he was thinking of 6%. If anyone else had any other thoughts or wanted to,
I make a motion to offer the adjustment possibilities for non-union salaries in the amount of 5%.
okay. So Ethna is making a motion for non-union increases at 5%. Ethna's motion.
Second.
And Ethan seconds. Okay. All right, so this would be reflected in, in the next budget adjustment. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor? And that is unanimous. Okay. One thing we were holding off on. I think, one of the things we also had discussed, at an earlier meeting, earlier in the budget process was under the selectmen budget, we had the health reimbursement account that was held there as a benefit for other employees. And I would just like to, I'll make a motion to remove that health reimbursement account line from the selectmen's line to populate it as a benefit under those employees it actually does benefit.
Second.
My motion and Ethan seconds. It is, because it truly is, a benefit for this health reimbursement account. For individuals, it's not a selectman benefit. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's unanimous.
With regards to the adjustment possibilities for non-union salary lines, I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure that the town manager offered us a recommendation for making the assistant town manager a particular percentage of his wage. While I don't necessarily he provided us some other figures for other locations.
Mhm.
And I'm comfortable with saying that with the 5% raise, I'd like to make sure that the assistant town manager wage line is in the amount of $58,393.56. That includes that 5% increase. That's not too,
Okay, could you,
not to have any in addition to. Sorry, I know that was kind of a struggle, but I'm trying to figure out how to accurately portray that based on the recommendation of the town manager without going up to.
okay, yeah. All right, so,
I am
so,
in support of an increase for the assistant town manager.
Line item.
Yeah, to the assistant town manager wage line. And with the 5% not to be in addition to, that number comes up to $58,393.56.
okay,
Sorry, that should be in a form of a motion. I apologize. I was trying to get it
yeah,
out.
yeah.
But it is a motion, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Second.
okay. Ethan's motion, I'm sorry, Ethna's motion and Ethan's seconds.
Madam Chair, could I get the number one more time? please?
Yes, $58,393.56.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion and a second for that adjustment for the assistant town manager / administrative assistant position. Okay. Follow that. Everyone else follow that? Okay, all those in favor? And that is unanimous. Okay. So perhaps adding a contingency line for the town manager for merit. If that's typically an action that the town manager takes. So, yeah, so I'd like to make a motion that under the administrative budget, that the selectmen add a $1,500 contingency line for merit bonuses as determined by the town manager.
That is as a one-time, right?
That would be just for this year. Yeah, it's a bonus. That, yeah. So that's my motion.
Second. Oh,
And-
Shall I go ahead, Ethan? I mean,
Yes,
Shelley
so-
got it.
All right,
You can say my
Shelley
name right, so-
Lowell, seconds.
Happens all.
Okay.
It's usually an
You get the
autocorrect.
F going out and it's, God knows where the rest of the combination lies. Okay. All right, so that is, okay, I'm sorry. Any further discussion? This isn't anything new. All those in favor? And that is unanimous. Okay. Yes, Shelley.
RV1, what's it gonna look like?
Oh, yes, RV1.
We
So,
won't know, will we, until all those numbers are plugged in, right?
so,
You have some revenue material in your packets.
Yep, I
tonight,
got
the sheet you asked for. So one of the things that you can do as a board, and I don't know how involved you got with it in the past. This is provided to you with recommendations. And they're very conservative, because that's the way we present them, and our finance directors the same mindset. For instance, on page 7, if you look at building permits, the actuals for this year are just under $80,000. So they are 80 total. We're proposing, 35. So if you have some level of comfort that you would raise that, you could raise what you're projecting for revenue. In each of these items, that's something you can do. We typically do it by default on your behalf, but if you want to get more involved in that, you can. really has to do with your comfort level, you know, if you think there's a recession coming, which I'm not saying there is, but, you know, building permits can slow down. I don't see any indications that they're gonna slow down, so
Right.
it might. The more revenue that you project in this, you know, the less you're gonna have to raise and put,
Right.
essentially.
Well, I just think of the last audit that we received, and, you know, in that they disclosed we've got, you know, a 4-month cushion in there in our undesignated fund balance, which far exceeds what is recommended in our undesignated
In our policy, we have a policy.
2 to 3.
2 to 3 months.
It actually, there's even a range of 8 to 16%. I mean, there are different ways to measure it as well, which gives the select board a huge leeway with what we could count as revenue, of course, with the you know, guidance of the town manager as well. So just going by our audit, you know, the beauty of Rangeley is we're not dependent on one huge corporation to cough up, you know, a substantial part of the tax base. It's all spread out, you know, amongst homeowners, waterfront business owners, et cetera. But it's not like we need to worry about, you know, the Carabassa, you know, bottling plant, you know, making their, you know, timely payments. So it's so I think we should really look at RB1 and the potential to increase this, so we don't have to raise anything more than necessary through taxation. I mean, the 275 has been in there by default without really any much discussion over the past couple years or so. So Joe, we would need RV1 determined within this article. Is it as a projection versus what actually would be discussed with the assessor in July?
So when you meet with the assessor, one of the things you talk about on that sheet has the revenue sharing, so forth in it. That's why it's not plugged in to this. It would be a projection of revenue. It's always a projection because you don't really know exactly what you're going to get in revenue from year to year. You're always going to anticipate.
But
Again, and there's some judgment call on behalf of the board in what you want to anticipate in a lot of these lines for revenue. You know, building permits, for instance, if it's 80,000 and you want to project that you're going to get 35,000 this year.
this is really nice. Can you thank, I mean, this is great, this revenue budget.
I was working on that when I got in this morning.
I just, please tell her thank you from all of us. It's very, very much appreciated. So it seems that 275 is what we may have some room with as far as the undesignated fund balance, and the 4 months that is lingering there of a cushion. So can we come back and discuss this next?
Yeah, you
Next
should
meeting?
discuss this when you have your final budget meeting.
Okay.
Would you like a couple of,
Right.
kind of what not the same as what the assessor does, but similar, where you get a couple of options of what could be in the RV1. You know, 75, 285, or 300, or something like that, some options,
Yeah, 400,000.
or something like that. I mean, whatever it is, you know, so
Yeah.
you can see what that looks like. I don't know if we have a formula that's complex enough where we can do it live action for you. So Rebecca may have that, but we may be able to get some scenarios ready ahead of time.
Yeah.
If that works out.
Okay,
But certainly you should talk about this as, you know, prior to finalizing your budget. and
Right.
warrant.
it's a pretty important responsibility of the board, so we should have a knowledgeable discussion. So we'll revisit RV1. Thank you for Shelley for bringing that up.
Madam Chair, I did have another item on the warrant, but I wanted to, we've already been in this section, but
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I want to go back to it. It's the chapter 38 item. Much as we discussed with Kristen going through this, when I printed this in the language. Here's the one from the website. It should say repeal and replace.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
The working, the clerk's copy has it, because she and I talked about it.
Okay.
So it's a repeal and replace of chapter 38. That may not show in your copy.
Okay, and replace.
Yeah.
That's repeal.
That's what it says. Shall the voters of the town of Rangeley repeal the current chapter 38 zoning ordinance of the town of Rangeley and replace with the
Yep.
proposed chapter 38
Okay.
zoning ordinance.
All right, so
So
that's
it does
good.
say it.
Good. Perfect.
At least my copy does.
Again, my copy, you have the most current one.
Oh, okay.
Thanks to my staff, you have the most current one.
Okay.
Give them,
Yeah, it says it the first.
give them our thanks.
Want to make
Yes,
sure you have that?
I got one. so
yes, yep,
I've had for the past, actually last year as well, I've had constituents want the, or question the wording of Article B20, which is how we decide whether we vote by secret ballot. They consider it confusing because it still says at town meeting, which technically we do, but not, we don't physically go. So I didn't know if there was a way we could word this so that folks would know what would happen if we voted not to do this. I couldn't come up with any good wording for it. I just wanted to express it because a few people from town have asked me that.
yep.
I'm gonna have to think about that one and see if there's a way.
You see what I mean?
Yeah,
Can you just throw in the word continue to vote?
Well, you
The town
could, but
Continue to vote on all, because then that way they would know that by secret ballot is the current way
no,
we
and
do it.
I agree, but I think a lot of folks don't know what the alternative is. I mean, they remember it, but I've talked to some people and they're confused by that
Yeah, and I've
question.
heard feedback of people saying they want open floor
Oh,
town meeting
oh,
back, but I'm like, well, then
absolutely,
vote for it back.
Absolutely. All I'm saying is I've had some people ask us to look at the language.
Yeah,
So
because the language is confusing.
But I thought we had to have it as town meeting. Do you remember? like,
no, I'm
when
not saying
first
we
switched
don't.
to-
I'm just saying the way it's formulated, they don't know that if they decide not to, that we'll go back to open forum.
Okay,
right.
That's all I'm getting at.
so, yeah, Joe can work on, I mean,
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
wanted to bring it up.
there's, yeah, because there's definitely, yeah, there's definitely some required language in there, but yeah, thanks for bringing that up. It's, yeah, it's something that good to review, see if there's, anything else, any other wording that would be suitable. Okay. All right. Okay. I think the only other thing that seems to have shifted, during this, while we've been discussing this current budget cycle is the customer service position, which has historically been under the finance department, but that position is now an administrative position that now reports to the town manager solely. So I didn't know if what the board thought about moving that line to the administration section, since it's no longer, it's been reclassified. It is a position that that no longer, is under the, no longer solely is responsible for, for financial matters. It is a position that now has varied roles and reports to the town manager. What folks thought about that.
Do you need that as a motion?
Pardon me?
Do you need that as a motion?
Didn't we already have a motion to move it?
I don't think, that's not what it reflects in this.
Currently in the budget.
In the
and
budget.
Expense budget articles, it would look like it's still in finance. So
Yeah.
I make a motion to move
I'm gonna say the title wrong, hold on, sorry.
Nope.
What is the title of the position? The office assistant
To the administrative budget.
Beth's motion and Ethan seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor? And that is unanimous. All right, anything? I know that's, got to the donation part and talk about language that people have asked to be changed, but that's, that needs to be a discussion long before now. All right, I'm not seeing, yes, Shelley.
So underneath the category for public works / parks and recreation, we have budgeted for a under line item 01-01 salary. It was suggested at 60,000. I recommend changing that to $50,000 for a salary a year.
The amount that it would, so that was your motion? Okay.
Change to 50.
Shelley's motion is to lower that, the current budgeted salary from 60,000 to 50,000 for the Parks and Rec Director position.
which is under which budget again, sorry,
They're trying to follow. So under which budget, Shelley, under which?
I'm sorry, that's under Public Works,
Under Public Works.
Parks and Recreation.
So everybody, so that, okay, so that is under Article E16. Parks and Rec. The current actual, the current request is 356.65.
The motion was to reduce the current requested wage of 60,000 to 50,000.
To 50,000.
Yep.
If I don't get a second, it's going to die in about 10 seconds.
I want to ask a question.
Go ahead.
Can we discuss before?
Oh, you want to
A
discuss?
second?
Okay, all right,
I know
so,
normally it's, you should have to have a second
Yeah.
before we discuss, but I just wanted to, I was curious, why? Do you think that the duties of the position don't warrant that wage?
It was based on reviewing the salary survey that we received.
And then we do still have, if I'm correct, we still have an awful lot that we pay out for other people to handle Parks and Recs things anyway, right?
Yeah,
We still-
had the
There's a pretty decent chunk of money that we pay out
for
to
this year to come, yeah.
for specific event-driven Parks and Rec pieces. I'll second that motion.
yes, so the, so there's
I don't have a
still,
budget for them.
so there's still a Parks and Recs committee, there's still a Parks and Recs.
And there's still at least a good $10,000 plus chunk out there that's being,
Then there's a 10, and it was additional.
So we're in discussion now, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
yes,
So right now, there's a one recreational director for 10,000. There's a summer program director for 1920. There's a summer rec assistant for 2880 for 2. Then you have the baseball for 2 and summer basketball for 2, both at 1,200. one baseball coordinator for 2,000, ice maintenance 1,500, football 720 for 2, gymnastics 720 for 2, soccer 720 for 2, special event help 2,400, Parks and Rec committee, of course.
So the Parks and Rec director position would have plenty of support in event coordinators to the tune of 10,000 plus. Okay.
Yes.
Wasn't the idea, when you brought it to us, because now I don't have the information in my head, but wasn't your idea, since we can't feasibly find anybody to take the place of the former public works director, that this person was gonna take over a large chunk and try to fill that void?
Yeah, so the programming is an important part of this. And luckily, we have a lot of folks that shoulder those items. The director would be directing those operations. The other portion of this, which is probably 50% or more, is the buildings and grounds, which right now, some members of Public Works are helping me handle it, but I'm taking calls for alarms, freeze alarms, and we're not keeping up with the buildings and grounds capital items that we need to be planning for. All of those things require a lot of manpower, and that's exactly right. Remember that I, because I care about Rangeley and I don't mind working hard, said, let's forego the public services director right now because we're not getting the folks at that salary range that I would like to have us on board. And then, it's takes a lot of skills to fill that. I said, let's have a little more finite approach to it. So I'm not sure it's the best idea in this late hour to reduce that from something that's marketable to something that may make the difference between us getting someone, having them be interested, and then not have them be interested. And then here I am without, that assistance, and the town is without somebody having a kind of a more regular eye on those things. I do not support it. I strongly recommend against doing it.
Any other questions or comments? Shelley looks like
I
she's
have
looking
one
for
more
information.
item I'm looking for. So let's see. Public Works Director for the town of Farmington with 11.6 years experience is at 54,891.
With how much years experience?
11.6
Do you mean Parks and Rec director?
Parks and Rec, yeah.
So,
Yeah, but they probably also have services.
They do have a public works director.
I mean, that balances that out.
Mhm.
Just we're, like you said, we're putting all our eggs in this basket right now.
Right.
So we're to compensate for that.
But I mean, if we have like 18,000 in that line item to use up for next year, keeping everyone in line, they may decide that they don't need the one recreational director next year. So that would be funds that could be future funds available
Right, which this
if
first
they're
year,
taking
this,
that role.
well, this first year,
That
if we
person's gonna
paid
be
it
helping.
at the recommended salary this first year, then maybe one or two of those small positions goes because this
Right.
person, so
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
and regroup at it next year.
So I would keep it at the salary Joe recommends.
so Joe, I mean, your thought is it's not necessarily, I mean, if you get someone that has very little experience, you're not gonna start them off at $60,000.
It's up to 60,000.
And also I'm looking at what other people that have been here longer make as well, so I'm just throwing that out there.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor? All those opposed? And motion fails. All right, moving on to, well, we keep going back and forth, so if there's anything else, there is no rhyme or reason for this town meeting warrant review.
So Madam Chair, one of the things that I noticed, I mentioned earlier that I've shared this updated salary survey with you of towns that you recommended. Pretty comfortable with everything you talked about during the first portion of this, with the percentages and upgrades. One position here that I see that has come up when I was putting this together is police chief. Wilton has come up considerably. Caramass Valley has, Jay has, Farmington is up there a ways. So the average for that is 75, 536. We're below that at 64, 459 now. Full disclosure, the chief does get a stipend for being the school resource officer. What you guys during the day. But I really think the town should be closer to 70,000 on this for base salary. We're above average for the population for fire chief. You already talked about the system down there. The board can consider police chief, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, Shelley.
So this is, I also, because I have also called and do the individual towns. And looking at the average salaries, it's hard for me to do the average salary on that when I know that those departments have a lot more people to manage. There's some that have detective units. There are some that have a dispatch unit in it, 2 of them that have a dispatch unit in it. So, I mean, to me, we're right in line with what we have for on average for the size of our PD. I mean, we've been how many years now with just 2 people?
Year 2.
So we're at 64.59 and you're looking for 70.
Right, which is $5 grand below. the
And that doesn't
average.
include the school.
5 grand below the average.
And the $5 grand, as far as I'm concerned, comes from the SRO position of the school, so that kind of makes that even, so to speak. Doesn't really make it even, but
So
it's respectable.
So the 64 for.
I think matching the lowest, sorry, I'm gonna cut you off. I think matching the lowest in the county for base rate is reasonable.
And 70 is the lowest.
70
Yes,
is the
he's a good
lowest.
police chief.
And Jay, he is. Community policing is excellent.
And he's got how many on his staff in Jay?
Well, there's a couple ways to look at that. You're right, staff is part of it, but the other side of that coin is if we can't attract staff and people are doing it more work themselves, doing nights and so forth, callings when other people aren't available. There's something to think about there too.
Saw a news report yesterday about municipal government workers at the local level all the way up through, and due to retirements and other reasons, nationwide they're down 5%. They don't see it trending up. I took a photo of the TV screen because I was watching it yesterday, and the Cumberland County Sheriff said he was down 63 positions, and the biggest reason was couldn't pay. So I see your concern, and he's got a lot of experience, he's a qualified guy, so I wouldn't be opposed to entertaining it.
So is that the 64,459, does that include the school?
No,
So including the school, how much is the,
Right?
that would be at 70.
I'm talking about the base.
The base rate.
The base, that's additional. The school can decide not to do it. And I don't think they're going to. I asked Chris the other day and it's still in there, but the base,
So base rate with the increase that we just proposed brings them up to 71. Just saying. With the 5% increase we just proposed, we'll bring him up to 71.
okay, but I hadn't
Mhm.
had time to do the math.
Right.
I
No,
didn't
well, just
realize
like
you
you
were gonna make
just,
that motion. I didn't.
no,
know.
no, but just like you just chastised her for pulling out numbers in the budget on a budget line and then you kind of fired that one at us, but it, with the 5%, he's up at 71.
Madam Chair, I don't believe I chastised the board member.
You called her out for bringing up for dropping a budget line for the Parks and Rec director, did you not? You said you didn't think this was the appropriate time to drop that budget line,
Okay, I feel like,
and then you, so
Okay,
I apologize if the word chastise offended you, but
all right. So I think we're all set with the fire chiefs, I'm sorry, the police chief's recommendation. Anything under, was there anything else under the budget, under the town warrant? Yes, Shelley.
so at our next meeting that we'll have, before that, we will receive updated numbers again for the final to compare with the warrant to make sure they all match.
That's the plan.
Okay. All right, just wanted to make sure.
All right. Yes,
Just to remind everybody, I know you already know,
We're gone.
and I said this to Esther when she chaired the meeting the other night. I'm going next week, everybody knows that. I just said it so you know, in case we didn't have a quorum, I don't expect you, if you can't fit a meeting in, not to have it, because I'm going. I can't inconvenience the town or the board at this point in time.
well, I think, the purpose was to get as much done, Ethan, while you were here, and I think
Right.
we did that.
But furthermore,
Not to be
what's
voted
done,
on.
what's done with this, if you need to vote on this budget the way it is, what we've discussed, I'm comfortable with it.
Okay, all right, that's good to hear, it's important.
Not that it's, matters.
Okay, so, all right, so that brings us up to, to schedule the final budget meeting. Ethan, as he just said, is gone next week. Doing some fun out-of-town events. Sam, you are back when?
It's that, but not till, but won't be able to make a meeting, so I'm available on the one.
On the 11th.
11th.
Okay.
And then the 14th is our last
Mm-hmm,
drop dead date.
yes.
That's the return.
All right, so the
We'll have a meeting.
11th.
Okay, we'll bring a kid back.
Does the 11th look for folks? Works for Ethna. Sam has no clue because she'll be back just the night before.
Yep, I'm good.
All right,
Are you thinking like 5 o'clock?
yeah, well,
Is the
whatever.
sewer, is that a problem? Then what the-
yeah, sewer commission is at 6, isn't it?
What's up?
No.
Oh, no, sewer's at 5.
They meet at 5.
5?
They should be cleared out by 6.
Okay, so we meet at 6.
6 p.m., April 11th. And then we can discuss RV1.
We should
Finalize-
probably
Yeah, go ahead.
have another one scheduled for Thursday, just in case. Remember how if there's some changes and we have to amend those changes? We always had a date
Just in
as a
case,
safeguard.
we could do that. All right, so just in case on the 13th. We could just have a placeholder for that at like 4 p.m.
What's up?
We could have a placeholder for that at like 4 p.m.
On Thursday?
Yeah.
Yep.
Would you get out? What time did you get out?
I get out of work at 4, but Thursday the 13th is a nail appointment. I
At
know.
4?
I know, yeah, at 4.
So we do 5? How long take you to do your nails?
Usually done though.
It's a placeholder, right?
It's just a
So you
placeholder.
might not need it.
Yeah.
I have faith you won't need it.
But yeah, we've had a safety net in the past. Okay,
So 5.
sure.
5 on the 13th.
Yes. Right, I need to make sure this is me. Maybe, yeah. All right.
Please stay here, right?
Just gonna ask them.
I just want to make sure we got these here, right? Was it all of it? No, some of it's. This is not. This is union is not.
All right, motion
Motion to
to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Second.
Ethel's motion, Ethan seconds, all those in favor. And that's unanimous. All right. Thank you, everybody.
My understanding was that they dispose of
Have fun.
confidential stuff, right? So long as you got stamped with